So what the fuck is this you just asked?
Indeed.
You didn't ask? So I was taking a nap one day. I just grabbed Reader's Digest from like 1975. And I was reading an article about, I don't remember what, volcanoes or something. I fell asleep like mid-sentence. And you know how sometimes when you're reading and you fall asleep, like whatever you had last read gets incorporated in your dream.
Yes.
Sure. So you have that last sentence like echoing through your head. And I woke up like 20 minutes later and the magazine was still there.
Right.
So I continued to read and the sentence completed, but suddenly nothing made sense at all. So I backed up and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't even right. This is a different article. And I realized what must have happened is while I was asleep, like my thumb moved and some pages flipped.
Oh.
But I thought, what are the odds though that mid-sentence I stopped reading and then I picked up on another page mid-sentence and it finished the sentence perfectly, but contextually it was fucked. So after that nap I thought, oh, what if I like chopped up Reader's Digest and mid-sentence switched to another article? The challenge, of course, is to make the sentence make grammatical sense.
Right.
But it's not going to make any fucking sense because each one of these is coming from a different article. But the sentence flows, it has a natural flow, grammatically but not logically. And then also the article name and the article pictures, similar thing. I would take an article name and then find a totally unrelated graphic. So that's what we're doing. We're reading my mashup Reader's Digest Mad-Libs.
Cool. This sounds great.
Okay. Bye-bye. How Autopsies Save Lives. From the October 1973 issue of Reader's Digest.
When hemorrhoidal tissues swell, become inflamed and infected, it can be very painful for the sufferer. But doctors have found a remarkably successful medication which is so effective that it actually
lays several hundred minute eggs in the slightest scratch or wound on livestock or wildlife. Eggs that quickly hatch into boring, flesh-eating
Fat dogs. A study conducted in an animal hospital in Grimsby, England, indicates, not surprisingly, that if the
Insurance is paid by employers. Companies in these states are forced to subsidize their own striking
Islanders. And I don't want to intrude as a conspicuous alien.
Thus, as with all revolutions, there is in this one the distinct danger that it can get out of hand. But at least the men behind it are aware of the
details of the 1787 convention. For years, I've been meaning to write to Mr. Truman to tell him that the reporter from the Palms Junior High Oasis has never forgotten his
long-term and catastrophic illness. Indeed, a recent poll shows that for the first time in history, U.S. doctors, by a slim majority, now favor
Veterans Day, designated by Congress as a day dedicated to world peace. In May 1973, a newspaper columnist advocated that we abolish
women immediately after childbirth. The clinics are especially effective because they reach a prime target at the prime time. Fertile women who
got all puffy. I touched one, and a whole cloud of fluff drifted down.
A total of $396 in credit cards are stolen without any of the shoppers being aware that their bags have been opened or their wallets
have been successfully bred since the first captive birth.
Hours later, as Mariner 9 charges down the planet's western hemisphere, a fantastic panorama unfolds. Four monstrous volcanoes straddle
marriages, the way babies exercise their lungs by yelling.
He's going to be all right, I thought. Maybe we'll take him home with us. Maybe he would
build 10 or more housing units in Florida. The smallest development affected is 250 houses. Clearly, the people most seriously affected by the new laws are big developers. But
inflammation has spread over her arms and part of her face. Blisters had broken and created large, ugly scabs. Suddenly, on a Sunday morning, we were alarmed. The scabs
are held close to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Even at discount prices, don't buy from a dirty store.
Well, really, fall is the most beautiful time of year, isn't it? I commented. He considered the matter thoughtfully, and then he replied, yes, except
I make stroganoff. I made stroganoff. I used round steak and mushrooms, and suddenly I could see the spiral of orange peel dangling before my eyes like a...
Layman's emotional resistance to the idea of autopsy. A few bereaved persons, often in shock or hysterical, don't understand why the doctor is
now accepting until Christmas. New gift subscriptions from each reader at just $2.97. A savings of $2 off the regular subscription price, and
These are most readily available for the horned and hoof species. They are much easier to breed than other mammals. Extreme climatic disparities generate great difficulties with
Extreme pressure and intense heat in the mantle of the earth when the continents split asunder.
Indeed, Nicklaus's determination to get things right on a golf course has won him the reputation of being
Of another world. Eagerly you strain for a first close-up look at the mysterious planet, but Mars is not yet ready to divulge.
the benefits of a remarkable beauty fluid. Now discover for yourself this world-renowned blend, known only in the United States as oil of Olay beauty lotion. Your
Rabbi read the marriage certificate first in Aramaic, then in English. Welcomed us into the house of Israel, had me say the Hebrew equivalent of "with this ring I thee wed," then told us to go forth and multiply.
And stopped enough of the water to bail the compartment dry. But the raft would now need constant bailing at both ends.
As she gulped air, she heard the screams of her children, still trapped in the car, but there was no sound from Ben, her husband. I must go back down and show them how to.
Forgive our debtors. At first sight, our fifth petition presents itself as a straight bargain. We beg God to
Increase 20-fold by 1980. The new soybean foods will compete not only with meat, but with each other in a market shakedown based largely on consumer acceptance. In one form or another, they seem to have
enormous proportions. The city of Honolulu was breaking out in a rash of Los Angeles-type sprawl, and an island-wide building boom was threatening to absorb large
Flesh next to my thigh in the mud. Mud, that's someplace to think of making love. Remember all of our walks in the woods, Lena? Even after the baby started coming along near me? You liked our walk in the woods. You remember that, Lena?
Tough luck for the birds, I ventured. There's not a bird in sight, she said. I think they're afraid of the cats. We have cats. Oh god, this might be my favorite one so far. Oil of Olay beauty lotion.
contributed by Howard Evans,
Thanks, Howard.
who clearly has no cats.
when I knew I was gonna trip over hemorrhoids.
Boring flesh eating. What the fuck?
Oh, no, I think it means boring, like, tunneling.
Oh. Boring. He's like a bored flesh eater. He's like I'm eating. He's watching TV.
Lazy zombie.
Yeah.